Imagine standing in the reception hall of your dream venue, the exact restaurant where you and the love of your life locked eyes for the very first time, only to be told it's already booked. Someone got there before you. And when you start digging, you find out that someone was your future mother-in-law. She didn't just try to crash the wedding. She didn't just offer unsolicited opinions. No, she secretly paid a deposit to steal your venue so she could force your hand and turn your intimate, heartfelt $60,000 event into her personal social showcase. And she smiled to your face the whole time. This is the story of how one bride drew a line in the sand and exactly what happened when her future mill crossed it one final, catastrophic time. If you've ever had someone in your life who smiled to your face while quietly undoing everything you worked for, this one is for you. Hit that like button, subscribe if you're new here, and get comfortable. Because this story has a twist so calculated, so deliberate, it's almost hard to believe. Almost. Let's get into it. Our storyteller, let's call her Sara, had been engaged for just over a year. She and her fiancé Marcus were the kind of couple that didn't need a grand production to feel the weight of what they were doing. They were introverts. They liked quiet dinners, a circle of real friends, and meaningful moments over spectacle. The wedding was supposed to reflect that. 50 people, a private room, an intimate evening that felt less like a performance and more like a gathering. There was just one complication: Marcus's mother. From the very start, the future mother-in-law, we'll call her Diane, had made her vision very clear. She wanted a big wedding, a proper wedding, childhood neighbors, distant cousins, a ballroom, a full sit-down dinner for 200 people who barely knew the couple. She pushed for a more traditional wedding gown, code for not Sara's style. She had opinions on the venue, the guest list, the flowers, and when Sara didn't immediately fold, Diane did what controlling people so often do. She weaponized generosity. $25,000. That was the number. A check, offered with a smile, that Sara immediately recognized as a leash. You don't need to have lived through a situation like this to understand the sick feeling that comes with a gift you know has strings attached. Sara felt it in her stomach the moment it was handed over. She didn't deposit it. Not yet. Instead, she did something brave. She sat Diane down with Marcus present and had the conversation that most people are too terrified to have. She was clear, calm, and honest. She told Diane that she felt their relationship had become strained, that choices she and Marcus made for their own wedding were being subtly undermined. She explained, as gently as possible, that 50 guests wasn't a compromise. It was who they genuinely were. That her wedding gown was her decision. That the venue would be chosen by the two of them. And then she asked, point blank, whether Diane had any expectations attached to the money. And here's where the story could have ended beautifully. Diane cried. She apologized. She said she'd always dreamed of having a daughter to plan a wedding with, that she was scared of being left out, that she only wanted everything to be perfect. It was the kind of tearful, vulnerable moment that makes you want to believe the best in people. Sara believed it. She was moved. She deposited the check. They moved forward. But people rarely change in a single conversation, especially people who've spent decades getting what they want. The first domino fell quietly. Sara and Marcus had their hearts set on a specific restaurant, the one where they met at a speed dating event 4 years ago. It only held 50 people in its private function room. Perfect. Exactly what they wanted. But when they called to book, the date was gone. Already taken. Sara was disappointed, but she brushed it off. These things happen. They'd find somewhere else. Then, a few days later, Sara's phone rang. It was a wedding planner she'd never heard of, calling to introduce herself. Hired, without Sara's knowledge, by Diane. Marcus explained it away. He'd mentioned to his mother that they lost the venue, and she wanted to help take some pressure off Sara's plate. The planner would just handle logistics, he said. Admin. Background stuff. Sara, trying to be gracious, decided to give it a chance. She met with the planner twice, described exactly what they wanted. Small, intimate, personal. The planner nodded and took notes. Then the planner sent over the venue shortlist. Sara clicked through each link, and her stomach dropped. Every single venue on the list was designed for 200 guests, grand ballrooms, chandeliers, massive dance floors. These were not small, intimate spaces. These were the kind of venues you book when you want people to be impressed before the appetizers arrive. Sara was confused. Marcus made a joke at the first viewing appointment. He said, laughing, that 50 people would rattle around in a room this size. The planner looked at him like he'd said something strange. And then the planner said it, casual as anything. She explained that Diane had called her, just last week, to let her know the couple was considering expanding the guest list, that they'd need a larger space. Sara stood very still in that ballroom. She heard everything the planner said, but all she could think was, she did it again. They went home. Sara called her mom and started crying. Not the kind of polite, frustrated crying you do when things don't go your way. The kind that comes from feeling completely cornered. She told her mom they were thinking about eloping, that maybe a courthouse and a dinner with their closest friends was just easier than fighting for something that kept getting taken from them. And here's where the story takes a turn that nobody saw coming. Sara's mom, bless her, had a feeling. A very specific, very targeted feeling. She picked up her phone and called the restaurant. The original one. The one Sara had been told was already booked. She pretended to be someone's sister, calling to confirm a reservation already made. She gave Diane's name and the date. The restaurant confirmed it. Diane had booked the private function room, paid the deposit herself, on their exact date. Let that sink in for a moment. Diane hadn't just failed to respect boundaries. She hadn't just overstepped. She had strategically, deliberately, taken a financial action to block Sara and Marcus from having the wedding they wanted, and then played innocent through every conversation that followed. While Sara was still feeling moved by Diane's tearful apology, Diane had already executed her plan. She'd bought the venue out from underneath them, knowing that without their first choice, they'd eventually have to look at bigger spaces. Knowing that momentum and money and a hired wedding planner would slowly steer them toward a 200-person event that Diane had wanted all along. It was calculated, patient, and it required Sara and Marcus to never figure it out. They figured it out. Marcus called his mother. And from what Sara described, it was not a conversation. It was a reckoning. He told Diane she was no longer involved in any aspect of the wedding. Not a single decision. Not a single vendor. Every vendor they'd contacted going forward would have a password, unknown to her, so she couldn't interfere. The wedding planner Diane had hired was immediately dismissed. The check, all $25,000, was transferred back to Diane's account that same day. And then he said the part that Sara hadn't even asked for but needed to hear. He told his mother that she was lucky she was still invited, but if she interfered, even once more, that invitation would be gone too. And if she did attend, she would attend as a guest only. No speech, no mother-son dance. She would sit in her seat and she would witness a wedding she had no part in shaping. Sara went no contact. Not dramatically, not in anger, just quietly and completely. She made her peace with being civil on the wedding day because she didn't want drama to cloud the thing she'd fought so hard to protect. But after that day, the door would close, and Marcus was standing right beside her when she closed it. The thing about Diane's plan was that it required the couple to never connect the dots. It required them to be too polite, too forgiving, too conflict-averse to look closely. What Diane underestimated was Sara, a woman who had already identified the manipulation once, who'd already had the hard conversation, who'd already offered grace, and who, when it was weaponized against her, didn't collapse. She called her mom. Her mom made a phone call. And 24 hours later, every single thread came unraveled. Here's what I keep coming back to. Sara gave Diane every chance. She had the honest conversation. She explained their reasoning. She accepted tears as an apology. And all of that grace was used as cover while Diane executed a plan she'd already put in motion. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do isn't a dramatic confrontation. It's simply refusing to be the person someone assumed you'd always be. If this story made you want to stand up and slow clap, smash that like button right now. It tells the algorithm people actually care about stories like this, and it helps us keep finding them. Drop a comment below. Have you ever had someone smile to your face while working against you behind the scenes? How did you handle it? And if you're new here, subscribe, because we've got a whole library of stories just like this one, and trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next.